Satchidananda-rupaya Vishwotpatyadi-hetave Tapatraya-vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditarataschaarteshvabhignaswarat Tene brahmahridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsurayah Tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha Tamna svena sadani rasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi Dharma projita ketavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Parerishvaraha Sadyo Hridya Varudyate Trakritibihi Shushrushabhistat. Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. There's lots and lots and lots of new students that are here. And particularly, right now we're in the middle of a silence retreat. We have around 30 seekers who have been silent for almost 70 hours already. No phones, no eye contact, no rituals. And so they're joining our class. And what this class is, if I can share in two messages, the foremost message is, the purpose of our life is to learn how to contemplate on the infinite. And how one can do that is by following their responsibilities. The word loyalty was used earlier. To be loyal to your responsibilities, if you are, your mind will naturally become more quiet and you will contemplate on that which is deeper. Today has been a most demanding day, as you can see, and at 12:01 p.m. sharp, I have to get into a car and drive to Buffalo for facilitating a camp there from 1 to 4. Then I have to come back here for 5 to complete our silence retreat. And we have a growing Kerala community in Niagara. And so they also want to associate with Chinmaya Mission. So I'm speaking to all of them tonight at 6 p.m. In Buffalo, the camp theme is, don't worry, be happy. And we have t-shirts about that and stickers about that. But if we reflect on, don't worry, be happy in a more deep way, this is the most logical statement, isn't it? What does worrying do for you? How does that help you? And being happy does everything for us. It helps us in all ways. Don't worry, be happy is most logical, but right now we don't feel that. And so what we're doing in Vedanta and Bhagavata is we're unlearning that we should worry, that this should be normal. Unlearning that someone else is going to make us happy. And doing this through Srimad Bhagavatam is most natural, because the more we're captivated by Bhagavan Krishna, by the teachings of Bhagavan Krishna, unlearning worry and unlearning external happiness becomes easy. We are in a special portion of Srimad Bhagavatam where we're learning from 24 facets of our experiences. The most recent, number 8, was a dove. Now, when we think of dove, I gave you that example of Dove body wash, remember recently? Or we think of chocolate, right? Dove chocolate too. What a dove teaches us is not to be attached. How do you know if you're an attached personality? Is you make matters personal. You all know someone like that who makes everything personal, takes everything personally. The person next to you, not you, correct? The person next to you. I feel that we all have a problem with making matters personal, taking matters personally, and that shows that we are attached. I'd read a very beautiful portion last week, and I'm going to read it again. This is especially in the notion of doership, here in the context of children, grandchildren, and so on. What the Rishi teaches, Teshu kale vyajayanta rachita avayava harehe, which means it is only by Sri Hari, as in Bhagavan Krishna, that one can have a child, that one can have a grandchild, any relationship for that matter. Why that's so powerful is if I internalize this, then I can't be attached then, correct? All of the relationships in my life, I didn't create them. They were created for me. See the importance of that knowledge to not get attached, and giving you a fuller framework in terms of our relatives. Okay, try to tune into this. Bhagavan Krishna is the one who tends to, I'll go in order, Srishti. In English, that means he is the creator. Next, Sthiti. In English, that means the one who's the controller. Next is Samhara. In English, the one who's the consumer. That's typically what we know. The creator, the conserver, the destroyer. So that's shared. But there's two more facets. Number 4 is Nigraha. Nigraha means the corrector. Whenever we do something wrong in our lives and life corrects us, Bhagavan Krishna is facilitating that, the corrector. And why does he do this? The 5th and the most important function of the divine is Anugraha. Anugraha means the conserver, the one who protects us, the one who guides us, helps us to evolve. So from the dove, not to be attached. How do you know if you're attached? You take everything personally. How can I learn not to be attached? By realizing all of the relationships in our lives, these are being facilitated by the divine. Our specific practice in relation to the dove, it is to serve. The Niagara Regional Police, what does the S stand for? Service. It's a forum for serving. And I have shared all of this, but here's one more deeper thought. How do you know if you're serving? Because we like to think that she's serving and I'm serving and they're serving. You know you're serving if you're sacrificing. If you're not sacrificing, not serving. And relatedly, if you know you're sacrificing, that means you're not serving either. The one who knows they're sacrificing goes on saying, look at what I've done for you. Look at how much I've done for this community. Give me back. Give me recognition. Give me appreciation. Then that's not service. In service, you're tuned into that serving, so you are sacrificing, but you don't know it. For some of you who love Bhagavatam, what time? For some of you who don't love Bhagavatam, when's lunch? Correct? It depends on what you're holding on to. Then time goes fast or time goes slow. That's the dove. We continue. Number 9. Number 9 takes us to a new chapter. We are in chapter 8. In chapter 8, the first teacher is a python. A python. How do you say python in Sanskrit? Anyone? Ajgaraha. Ajgaraha. This is the 9th teacher, the 9th facet of creation that is teaching us. Ajgaraha. What Rishi Dattatreya notices is that an Ajgaraha is mostly just lying around. And sometimes when food is in front of that Ajgaraha, it eats. And when food is not in front of that Ajgaraha, what does it do? Not eat. Yes? So this is how a python typically functions. And it's quite true. Sheila and I, before we had children, we were in this facet of Florida. I forgot the name. I think it's called Alligator Valley or something like that. So Sheila and I went into these kayaks, and you're in the Everglades, this really swampy area, and there are alligators everywhere. Like the distance between me and this television, you and each other. And the person, and we're freaking out here. Here's these dinosaurs that are beside us. But the person who was sort of with us, he had shared, alligators are one of the most lazy animals in the kingdom, in the wild kingdom. They actually only move to eat an hour a day. And so if they've already eaten, as fleshy as you are, they're not going to bite you or eat you. But if they're hungry and you're fleshy, so a python, an alligator, what are we supposed to learn from this? Here are some insights from Rishi Dattatreya. He shares, and I know all of us can tune into this. The world, our lives, give us pain even if we don't work for pain. Is that a true statement? Everyone has pain in their life even though you didn't work for that pain. Is that true? If it's not, just getting old, right? Getting old is painful even though you're not trying to work to get old, but you get older. Your knees hurt, you can't remember things as much. So life will give us pain even if we don't work for it. So logically, life will give us pleasure even if we don't work for it. So why work for it? Pain is going to come if you don't work for it. Naturally, then the opposite, pleasure is going to come if you don't work for it either. That's a poor investment to work for pleasure. I find with a lot of people who are flirting with retirement that instead of serving past their family, even serving past the community, what they do is they serve pleasure. Refine their homes, go on more vacations. That's going to happen to you anyways. Why do you have to work for that? And then there's an even more stark example or teaching here. The pleasure that you work for in the world, those pleasures are available in hell too. Whatever pleasure we work for here while we're in this middle earth, though these same pleasures are available in hell. So the message is, be lazy, go to hell, experience those pleasures. Now, trying to make this more relative. And you've heard this before. I'll share it again so it's solidified for us. If you work hard for what you want and you get it according to your timeline, according to your expectation, what is life? What is the divine trying to teach you? Please share in the chat. You can all shout it out. If you work hard for what you want and you get it according to your expectation, what is life trying to teach you? To be grateful. That's correct. To be grateful. Grateful for the opportunity that you worked and what you worked for has come into your life. Next, if you work hard and smart for what you want and you don't get it according to your timeline or your expectation, what is life trying to teach you? To be faithful. To be faithful, that you will get what you want and you need, but not according to your projection. To be faithful. But now the most deep, the most profound, if you work hard and smart for what you want, but you don't get it. What is life? What is the divine trying to teach you? To be peaceful. that you don't need it, because if you needed it, you would have received it. So instead of working for pleasure, work to become more grateful, more faithful, and most of all, most peaceful. When we were studying in the ashram, I arrived in August of 2005, and we were given some stuff. We were given 2 dhotis, 2 kurtas, this small bag, and this umbrella. You know the umbrellas you buy kids? They give us one of those umbrellas. And then during our orientation, so imagine all the students are sitting there, and Puja Swami Tejramananda comes to the middle and says, while you're living in the ashram, you will get what you need. And if you don't get it, you don't need it. And here I started having heart palpitations. You gave me 2 sets of clothes and a child's umbrella. I need more stuff. But then as I lived in the ashram, I realized I didn't. They gave me everything I needed, and most of what I needed was not outside of me. It came with me. I just had to find it, to find that peace. And coming back to that umbrella point, how many of you have lived in Mumbai or the monsoons in India? How many of you have experienced that? See, there's a lot of people who are born in America and Canada that are sitting here that haven't. I used to watch in Bollywood movies, every song it's raining, people are dancing and so on. But when I got to Mumbai, and that too in August, September, and if you remember what happened in 2005, that was the period when they had that extreme amount of rain in 24 hours. Our ashram is beside a lake. That lake got so overflooded that there was fish in the streets of Mumbai. It was just so grand. When I experienced the monsoon, I realized why they gave us that child umbrella. No umbrella works. They may as well save money and just give you this childish one, because no umbrella is going to stop that rain. Here is our practice. From the dove to serve, from the python, our practice is to quieten. To quieten. The quieter your mind is, the less you work for pleasure. The quieter your mind is, the less you feel pain. So instead of investing in pleasure, and what pleasure will bring is pain, instead invest in being quieter. And this is a constant message in our culture. What is the most sattvic utsava? What is the most sacred celebration in Sanatana Dharma? Anyone want to guess? You can guess online too. Janmashtami. Every Gujarati is going to say Janmashtami. Every Punjabi is going to say Deepavali, but both are incorrect. Anyone? Guru Purnima. See, all of our really astute students are saying that. But technically, it's Mahashivratri. Mahashivratri is the Sattvic Utsava. It's a celebration that focuses on quietude. That is the most important in our culture. And what you're supposed to do on Mahashivratri is shut down your senses. On that day, you're not supposed to engage your senses in any way that you don't need to. That means no YouTube videos. You don't need to see YouTube videos. No goofing around on WhatsApp. You don't need to do that. For some, like when I practice Mahashivratri, I don't drink water either. My body is healthy enough that for 24 hours, Vivek does not need water. Maybe when my body changes, I will. Now, especially for our silence retreaters, when you don't use your senses, show me what happens to you. See, I watch them sometimes. Here's how they start their contemplation, like this, okay? Like an exclamation mark. But slowly they become question marks like this. Like this. But they try so hard, so they kind of bob like this. You know, it's all being recorded, yes? See, when our senses are not being engaged, we all become sleepy. But that's why we do this at night. At night, when everything is supposed to be sleepy, you're still supposed to be vigilant. conscious, aware. So that's what it is to be quieter, that you don't engage the senses, but you don't become sleepy, hangry, and so on. And our 10th teacher is the ocean. I'm really tight on time today, and I was tight on time last week too, which is why I'm not reading the Sanskrit shlokas. I will in our next class, so you have these references. Because you all want these Sanskrit references, yes? You're writing them and studying, yes? The ocean. What Rishi Dattatreya noticed about the ocean is that when it rains a lot and those rivers feed the ocean, it doesn't rise. When the sun is beating down on that ocean intensely, it doesn't shrink. Now I'm going to pause here. Some years ago, I was teaching this subject to a group of kids, and I said this about the ocean, and immediately every kid had their hand up. Excuse me, Vivekji, the ocean levels are rising. And I was quite proud of them that they're not taking these matters just because I said it, that they were critically thinking about these examples. And I had read that Sanatana Dharma is the first religion that is affected by global warming, because so much of our religion is intertwined with the environment. Think about Amarnath. What is Amarnath made out of? Ice. Too hot, no ice, as if no Amarnath. Think about the Ganga, right? The Ganga is not a river, she's the goddess. And eventually she's going to dry up too, and it breaks my heart to say that the physical Ganga will dry up. The metaphysical one is up to us, but the physical one, like so many rivers in America already, are drying up. So now coming more to the philosophy of the ocean. The ocean on the surface is bubbly. Anyone who goes to a beach, there's that constant waves and bubbles. But if you go to the depth of the ocean, like to the Marianas Trench, are there bubbles 30,000 feet below? There's silence. So for us, as we interact with people, we should be bubbly. We should be cheerful, but not shallow. I shouldn't go about interacting with you just for you to like me. I should have that depth, that silence, that I am happy whether you like me or not. So bubbly, yet silent. Another insight from the ocean is that if sense objects, a lot of them come into your life, like on Black Friday and Cyber Monday and so on, and if sense objects leave your life, like when I ask you to give me money. In both cases, you should not be elated or depressed. You shouldn't be pushed up or pulled down. One should be balanced. The ocean metaphysically is an icon for balance. And next week, when I read the Sanskrit to you, the word that is used here, munihi. Does anyone remember what muni means? What does muni mean? Tell me. Now you're going to say rishi. Then I'm going to say, what does rishi mean? We define words by defining words. Good. Someone who's silent. Well shared. I had once asked a group of people, what does sadhu mean? And one person put their hand up, a poor person. See, when you have such definitions, who wants to be a sadhu then? A sadhu is one who's inclusive. Equity, diversity, and inclusion. Sadhu means inclusive. A muni etymologically means manana shilavan. Manana means to reflect. Shilavan means someone who's good at it. The one who does this with their time is a muni. Munihi Narayana Paraha. A Muni is one who's reflecting on Bhagavan Narayana, specifically that Bhagavan Narayana is para, their priority. So if sense objects come, fine. If sense objects go, fine. Here is our practice. Our practice is deepen. Deepen. By a show of hands, how many of you are in our Practices to Perfection course? Good, a lot of you. If you remember, a couple of practices that I've suggested for you is, at noon, what should you do? Review what disturbed you that day. At night, what should you do? Review what made you quiet that day. See, a deep person, they are not disturbed by context. A deep person, they are quiet because that's their content. I wish I had more time, but let me tell you this briefly. When our older son Vyasa was just a baby, we had gone to Flint. That was the first international trip that we had made. And we arrived at a home. And at this home, we thought there was just going to be that family there, but lots of people were there. So Vyasa was passed around like a ball. And naturally, for someone who's a few months old, that's really agitating. So we got into a car to go to the discourse. We got into the car to go to a discourse, and Vyasa was crying so much. And in this car, in the back seat, there was a high school student who put his headphones on. And finally, when Vyasa stopped crying, then I had asked him, I know this high school student, I said, what were you listening to? And he goes, nothing. I just didn't want to hear your baby cry. And see, my point is, we're so used to this baby crying, he's not used to it, correct? So for the one who is practicing being deeper, review disturbances at noon. If there's any disturbances, I'm responsible for that. Review quietude at night. If there's any quietude, I'm responsible for that. It's not about the baby crying or the winter storm and so on. So with this, we have now completed 10 of the 24 teachers. We have invested 6 weeks into these 10 teachers. Here's what they are again for your review. From the earth, we learn to forgive. I'm putting my fingers up for the numerals. From air, we learn to purify. From fire, we learn to absorb. From water, we learn to refresh. From space, we learn to accept. From the moon, we learn to observe. From the sun, we learn to share. From a dove, we learn to serve. From the python, we learn to quieten. And from the ocean, we learn to deepen. In our next class, I'm telling you in advance, I'm going to introduce 5 teachers, even though 6 are included. These 5 are very popular in Sanatana Dharma. It's referenced in Viveka Chudamini specifically. Here's what these 5 are. The moth, the bee, the elephant. This one sort of doesn't belong in the sequence. The honey gatherer, the deer, and the fish. Now, why these 5 are special? Each of these 5 is infatuated by one sense organ. A fish is infatuated by taste, so even though it can see that worm is on a hook, what does it do? It goes after what it feels to be tasty. Now, imagine the fate of that creature that's infatuated by all sense organs. Vivekji, tell us, what kind of being is this? Look in the mirror or the person next to you. I'm going to chant Om once to formally complete the discourse. I'm going to give you your discussion, and then we're going to begin our puja. Om.